right after they did. What are you seeing with the Suns since you guys have played them that's enabled them to continue to have the kind of success they have?
Well, all the things one would expect to be a championship caliber team. Those guys in Golden State and in Salt Lake and here in Phoenix, they're on another level than everybody else. So they just execute better, make fewer mistakes. Great teams, great coaching, and they've got it going on.
I wanted to follow up with all the coaches that you've had, assistants that have moved on to become head coaches. How do you view it? Do you ever take time to even reflect on having so many guys that have taken that step and become successful in your head coaches?
Well, I've been around a while, so part of that is I've seen a lot of people. But whether it's on the management side or the coaching side, it seems like everywhere we go, there's 4 or 5 people I get to say hello to. It's in every city, so it tells me I've been around a while, made some good friends, had some great experiences, been very, very fortunate.
Monty was telling us stories about when he played for you. He said you would cuss him out in practice and then invite him to dinner later that night.
This is true. He told you the truth.
Was it, not just with Monty, but was that part of setting that early culture that you wanted?
Yeah, I think we all try to set standards and have demands, and we each have to be what one is. Is that correct? I'm more volatile in a way, or I might show my emotion in practice or shoot around or at a halftime talk with the team. But if that team knows you're doing it because you want to make them better, and they know that down deep you love them, it works. So the arm around Monty and the sticking it to him in practice, both have to be there, or we wouldn't be as close as we are today. So, everybody has their style. Some other people are much more classy and meek than I am. Others are even meaner. So.
Looking at Murray and what he has done this year, he's getting triple doubles and impacting the game on both ends. Where has he grown the most, you feel, in this season?
Right. We're very proud of DeJounte. He's come so far. He had very little experience coming into the league, and basically missed one whole season where he wasn't able to develop. So at this point, to see him playing the way he is, the confidence area where he feels he's got habits that have formed now. He understands the position, he understands the role, he understands the responsibility every night. That comes out in his confidence and his leadership. And then on the O's and X's side, his decision making in understanding score and time on the clock, who's on the court with him, is all getting better and better. Everybody can't come into the league and be a Chris Paul as far as understanding the whole deal, but he's getting closer and closer to that kind of thing.
Coach, with that in mind, would you say that he's one of those players, even his lack of collegiate experience, that he embraced kind of your approach that you were alluding to in terms of, prodding in practice, but the arm around, because it really looks like this is a young man who wanted to be coached hard.
He does. He would often tell me, he'd say, stay on me, stay on me. He doesn't want to have anybody just let up on him and let him just float, we call it. We don't want you to be in float. You have to be constantly trying to improve and understand what's going on. So he's definitely one of those guys who wants you to coach him.
When he started doing that, were you like, whoa, what are you serious? You really want me to?
Well, that's a good question. At the beginning, you say, is this BS, or is this, or does he really want me to get on him? That kind of thing. Because he saw a relationship with Tony Parker, and I was relentless on Tony. I should have been jailed probably. But Tony's like one of my sons, and I thought about that when he said stay on me, because Tony never said stay on me. He'd say get off of me for a while. So But, I realized over time it was true, and he really wanted to become a good player. That's always more fun for a coach, obviously, to think that you have some impact in their improvement.
Can you just talk about the success you've been able to see now over the last 4 games, starting on the defensive end? I mean, you guys have been able to hold teams in this streak to under 100 points per game.
Well, for one of the very few times, we've got our starting lineup back, and that helps every team. Jakob Poeltl is our base on the defensive end of the floor. We didn't have it for a long time. So having him back, and now over the last few weeks having Derek White become Derek White again has been huge, because he's been hurt most of the year and has been really slow in getting confidence in his foot. So he's been pretty much, half to 3/4 speed while he's gotten back into a rhythm. So really getting those 2 guys back in the flow has been nice. Doug McDermott came back during this trip. So I think having them all back has been important, because it's basically a new team and pretty young, so they need that time together, and I think that's shown in the last few games.
Hey, Pop, how
Yes, sir.
much is this quote-unquote meanness of yours? How much of it is your personality? How much of it is play acting like you have to do when you're raising your kids?
Yeah, it's basically a shtick. Who wants to be mean? So I say that kind of stuff. It's part of the shtick, and just like somebody will say, I did this to the media or whatever. Most of the time it's all humor and we have fun. So I think rather than meanness, it's accountability. No bullshit.
Right.
This is the role. This is what you need to do. You're going to be able to do this. Let's get it done. You did it really well, or you did it really poorly. Now let's continue. So I think, like in any business, if the standards are set, if people have character, and you have follow through and accountability, and they know that you care, you can get it done. But I also, since I'm here, I'm going to do this forever. I'm going to thank Devin and JaVale again for their time in Tokyo, because they were great. I'll never forget them being there and the roles they played. So they will continue to get my gratitude for sure.
Have you figured out how you're going to be replaced, or I haven't heard one word about it since the whole tournament?
You will pretty soon. I think you'll be very happy with my successor. They're just going to wait. Grant is mulling it over right now. I talked to him when I came back, and to Sean Ford about that. There's some really good candidates, and I think he's pretty close to coming to the final decision and making an announcement. So now that person can get an ulcer. I'm sorry?
Steve was the obvious, choice. Everybody talked about it after the tournament, right?
Well, Steve, he's definitely going to be in the conversation for sure. All the coaches were great. It was the most amazing experience of my life. You look over here and there's Jay Wright and there's Steve Kerr and Lloyd Pierce and Ime Udoka, and I had Spo come in to coach the select team. So Eric Spoelstra's doing that, and Jamal Mosley is there as an assistant. They had Jeff Van Gundy come in, he was their scout. So all these guys are there every day in our meetings, and we're all talking basketball and doing this. So that was pretty awesome.
Well, the amazing part about it is how you have to put the whole team together on a run. Because of COVID, because of the lateness of the finals.
It was a little strange, it was, the NBA season ended so late,
Right.
and the Olympics started earlier, so there was really no practice time. So in the beginning, when we lost those couple of prelim games, as coaches, those were practices for us. We didn't, okay, you win, it wasn't a big deal to us. Everybody else was like freaking out. But those were practices,
I talked to Colangelo, and a month before, he didn't have a roster. He had you know, flyers out, but he didn't know who was
Yeah.
gonna be there at all.
Once we got it, it kept changing.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why it was such a great experience. And these guys came from, you know, as they came in, most of them were out of shape. And they just stuck with it, and they stayed in that one room for the entire time. Our feet never touched the Tokyo street. To the bus, to the gym and back, eat in that one room, be together. They don't have their friends or families, there's nobody cheering for them. They deserve an amazing amount of credit for the sacrifice they and their families made. So to finally get it done, to this day, you know, we see each other and we hug and we just say gold
Yeah,
and,
sure.
and enjoy the hell out of it. It's just, it's kind of a private deal. And that'll never go away, I guess. You know.
I covered the whole tournament from afar and the baseball too, which also was
Ah.
fun.
Yeah,
So,
it was great. That was probably the saddest thing about the whole deal was that those young kids, not just the basketball players, but, you know, gymnasts or swimmers or whatever, you know, they've done this their whole life and their families aren't there and their friends aren't there. There's nobody in the stands cheering them, and they go through it. So they missed a really hell of an experience. And you got to feel bad for them about that, for sure.
The chants and the flags.
Yeah, everything, you know, they didn't get that.
and you
So.
didn't even mention Durant. What tournament he had?
Every Olympics, he's been the same.
Yeah.
He's been the man every time for the last 3 Olympics. And that was part of the progression of the team. You know, like Book, you know, he's not going to shoot 24 times in the Olympics. Durant might. But everybody had to know their role. You know, it was a whole different dynamic. So, you know, Damien's going to used to this many shots and Book this many and Tatum this many, and that's not going to be there. So they all had to, in a very short period of time, like you said, figure out what the pecking order was and how we had to play and move the ball. And Kevin was, you know, the guy who he just did his thing.
Was the French game like a huge wake up as it looked like from afar?
No, not really. We knew they were going to be really difficult. Is that what you asked? The first one? Yeah. We knew they were going to be really difficult. You know, we had played them in 19 when, you know, we had all the injuries and, you know, Tatum was out, and Kuzma was out, and Kemba was hurt. Who was the other guy that was out from Boston? The defender. Marcus Smart, you know, is there.
Yeah.
And so we played the French pretty tough, but moving forward, we knew they were the key. That was the team that we had to be able to play with. So as Jerry was picking the team, masterfully, by the way, because there were so many people that were, you know, they didn't want to go, they didn't want to deal with COVID, they didn't want to leave, they had free agency and they didn't want to screw with their contracts, you know, but Jerry just kept pushing, and it wouldn't have happened without him, with all the calls he had to make to players and to GMs, to agents. I can't imagine, you know, I didn't make any of those calls. We would discuss the guys we wanted, but he was the guy making all those calls, Sean Ford making all those calls, and it took a while, so it was fun to get it all together finally. And the last part of it, and then I'm going to go sit in there and read a book before the game, it was really satisfying to have Jerry go out as the winner. And
Yeah.
in all honesty, that part scared me to death. I don't know if I could have gone on living with that, because he's had so much success, and to not win that final one would have been just horrendous. So every one of us as coaches, we would talk about and say, you know, we got to get this done, we got to get it done, so that Jerry goes out a winner, which he deserved. So it all ended well, so it's good. So to the next guy, good luck.
Instead of a bottle of wine.